want to talk to you about something very important, which is intention, execution, impact triad. And this is important because this happens in every relationship when we just find misunderstandings, and it can be solved in a very simple solution. My name is Brian Jones, and I'm a relationship therapist and coach, and I'm here to give you all the ins and outs on all things of a sustainable, healthy relationship. So let's get right into it. So when we talk about the intention, execution, impact triad, I'm going to set this up with a problem. So let's say one day that you know Fridays is your day to hang out with your spouse. All right, and then just happened that one Friday you happen to wake up and your spouse is getting ready to go out with a friend. And so they're getting dressed, they're getting ready to go, and they say, hey, I'm going to catch up with my friend for a cup of coffee, and we're going to be gone for a little while. Now, you may wake up and say, wait a minute, but I thought this is our day. And then you start getting angry. How could you be so selfish and give away our day? How could you do this to us and disrupt our day that we're supposed to be sitting together? And your spouse will say, well, I didn't realize that we have to spend I'm so sorry. And y'all may start getting into a little bit of an argument. So let's talk about what this looks like, okay? So we have partner one, partner two. We're going to talk about the intention, execution, impact. So in the moment we're talking about intentions, we're talking about the thing that you wanted to happen and the thing that you intended to happen because this is the thing that was in your mind about what the narrative of that day would have been. So in that moment, let's say partner two says, well, look, I was going to be back by around no later than 5 and we can still do something today. But now partner one, he doesn't want to hear that, right? They don't want to hear that. The day is ruined. We can't do anything today. So let's look at the nature of the intention. The intention for partner one was to spend the day together. The intention of partner two was to spend some time together. And of course, when they talked about it, they may have said, this is the day that we spend time together, not spend the whole day together. Maybe unclear. I see this all the time in my clinical practice. And so when we have mixed intentions, there can be some collide in the individual situational moments. So this is where we get to the execution. And now here on the execution axis, we start to see the challenge in the way things unfold. Because if partner two said, I intended to spend some time with you, but I didn't think about the whole day, the execution therefore created what we will say an impact. But now that partner one is getting upset, his execution, instead of saying, hey, you know what, I really missed you throughout the week. I just wanted to do X, Y, Z with you today. His execution now creates an impact for him, for partner two. So now we have this bidirectional impact happening simultaneously. So when we have impact is the nature of our execution and the way it produces a result to the other person. Remember, intentions are in our minds. Behaviors are in our actions. Impact is the way it communicated to the other person. Now notice what I say here. It's the way it received by the other person. Because now, in this particular case here, we can say one thing and it is communicated in a different way than what we intended. So the execution might be different than what we intended. So in this case here, we have partner two, whose execution was to spend time together. Partner one, whose execution was, now I'm going to tell you how bad you are, because you are not holding to our sacred agreement about Fridays being the day before us. So this is where we're at right now. And so now we have a central problem. The problem is partner two went out with their friends. And this might not be on the surface a bad thing. But given that it caused an impact, when they're ready to talk about this later, they're going to talk about this in a certain way. And this is the way that I'm going to recommend that we talk about it. Because when you have a structured impact, when an impact has occurred based on your execution, then we have two possible options here. We can either react or we can regulate. But those are the only two options here. We can either react or regulate. Now, what are the repercussions of either of those choices? When we react, our central nervous system kicks in the same way it would under trauma or stressful situations. When high stress is present, our central nervous system kicks in quickly, and it goes to defend us rather than to relate to the person. It doesn't mean that it is a negative thing. What this means inevitably is that our only mechanism is to defend ourselves, to defend the position, to make sure that we are right, not to connect to the person. Remember, we are in a relationship, and the key word there is the capacity to relate to another person. And if we are going to relate to another person, defending ourselves does not allow us to relate to that person, but rather to push them away. And all of our behaviors in this react-defend position just bottles us into the space of reacting, and then we go into the four categories: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Now here's our other choice. We can regulate, and then when we regulate, we relate. Because when we regulate, this is how we teach our central nervous system that it's okay, that we are not going into this moment of abandonment. We're not going into this moment of they're going to leave us. We're not activating all of these feelings and fears and expectations, and we're not responding to the ghosts of our relational past. We are present focused in this moment. And so when we regulate in that sense, we begin to learn to understand what was the challenge with that execution and how we can talk about it. So let's look at an example from a dysregulated response. So again, we have our problem here. Partner 2 decided to go out with the friends. All right? So a dysregulated statement would sound something like this. How can you be so selfish by going out when you know it's our day to spend time together? Notice that for a second. Because what do we see here in this moment? We see the question formed as a question. How can you, so meaning we're blaming, we're saying that you are the problem and you're the problem with this relationship. Be so selfish, meaning it's a character judgment. This person's personality is all about selfishness. And then we say, by going out when you know, we're trying to assume the person's state of mind and that the same agreement was mutually understood. So they knew that the whole day was dedicated to the couple rather than spending some time. Right? And there's a difference between 24 hours and 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. It's a difference between 24 and 23 hours. So if we don't have that level of clarity, how can we really relate to the other person in the relationship? Okay? And I'm going to finish this here. When it's our day to be together. Right? So now this is stating an expectation that wasn't clearly defined. So let's reframe this a little bit. And when we reframe this question, when we reframe this problem, we want to reframe it in a way that is specific, it's not blaming, and both people can get on board with this. So we're going to reframe this problem such as this here. Hey honey, can we talk about the strategies to protect the time that we spend together as a couple? Now, of course, you have some feelings about this as well, because Partner 2 is the one that decided to make time on there. So this is where I want you to note the barrier, and we're going to call these psychological barriers to your relational communication. And one of your barriers might be your feeling about the situation. So it's okay to talk about that and say, you know, I was really hurt when you booked your friends together on this day, on Friday. I was really hurt about that. And recognize your own expectations. I guess I was expecting that this day was dedicated to us. Relate to your partner. I'm going to miss you when you're out because I was really excited about it. And so what we can do is we can recognize the nature of our pain, because when we have expectations, I like to put it into a simple formula. Expectations equals, or pain equals the gap between expectations and reality. The greater the gap between our expectations and our reality, the greater the pain. It's an equal balance equation there. And so what we want to understand then is that when that expectation of all day was violated, now I am experiencing pain that I don't like to experience. And the natural instinct, especially the natural defense, is to make the person the culprit of that pain. So then therefore I'm a victim because I can't believe you're subjecting me to such horrid, malevolent pain. But at the same time, I'm also a victor because I would never do this to you. So when I bring it back here, I want to bring us back to those barriers of recognizing the feeling that we're having inside. And we want to be able to name those feelings and name that experience. So what is our other option here? We can name our need. You know, honey, I really needed to connect with you today. My connection and belongingness is not just something that is vital to me, but it's important because this is how I really get to connect with you on a regular basis. We have such busy lives, and I do miss you sometimes. And when I miss you, I really look forward to our days we get to spend together. So can we talk about the nature of how we can protect this time and come to some kind of resolution on when we're going to spend our times together? Because I understand that your need for autonomy might be important. And you want to spend time with your friend. So I just want to find a good balance to where both of our expectations are being met in a way that's going to be comfortable for the both of us. Notice the difference. One way makes the person the problem. The other way makes the problem the problem. And once we make the problem, then this is something we can tackle together. We can change problems, but we can't change people. And so what I want you to do moving forward is really look at the notion of, one, what does an impact feel like to you? Does it feel like you just need to go in and defend yourself? Or can we change that automatic response and go to a response where we regulate and relate? Because if we can regulate and relate, then that is the way we bring people in to the nature of our relationship. So if you like this here, what I'm going to ask you to do is to like and subscribe. And also I want to invite you to my master class. It's called the FERNS method. And I teach you a step-by-step process on how we move from defending ourselves to defending our relationship. Because this is the one thing that is so important for a couple out there, is to learn how to defend the nature of their union. And so see the link in my bio. You can take a look at our course and really work through that. It's a step-by-step process. And also feel free to contact me. My email is also in the description there. You can shoot me an email and I'm happy to consult.